Hey, what's up everybody? I'm here today to tell you this 5th gen 14 Altima is a good car. Alright, now I know it's hard to believe that this Altima with a CVT transmission is a reliable vehicle, but I'm here to tell you that it is. I've had this car since new. Actually, my girlfriend purchased this car brand new back in 2014. It is a 14 4-cylinder 2.5, and we've had nothing but good experiences with it. I've maintained it since it was brand new, done all the oil changes, and really not too much maintenance or required things have been needed to keep it up. So I'm going to go through everything that's been done to this car, where it's at, go through the engine. We're going to go through everything, guys. So let's start with taking a look under the hood, and then from there we'll come back out and we'll go around the car and just give it a little review and check everything. So let's go ahead and start with getting under this hood, guys. All right, guys, so let's get into looking at the drivetrain. We're going to look at the engine, we're going to look at the trans, and we're also going to look for leaks and everything surrounding, like our subframe, axles, rack, all that good stuff. So I do have the car semi-disassembled for this, for the inspection I'm doing and for this video. So we're going to start with right here. Now, I do have a light that's sometimes less helpful than helpful, but if you guys can see in there, absolutely no leaks on the crank pulley seal there. I just did an oil change, so if there's anything right here, that's actually from me. No fault of the car, but as you can see, we have no leaks anywhere. It's dry as a bone. The axles, boots are good, nothing there. Same thing with the rack, it's dry as a bone. Everything is extremely dry. If we look at that motor mount right there, there's no cracking, the rubber looks good, so everything back here looks good. I did replace this lower control arm here, so I do have a how-to on the channel. I'll leave a link in the description below to show you guys how I did that, but everything else here, guys, is original, and it all looks to be pretty clean and pretty dry and really good for 140,000 miles. All right, so let's take it underneath here. We're underneath the Altima here. Now, start here on the engine side. We're looking at the oil pan here, and there is no leaks. Move this light here, get you a better view. Absolutely no leaking around. And like I said, if you see anything around this area, I just did an oil change, so that would be from me. And no fault to the car, even though I did my best cleaning up, and looks like we're pretty dry. So if there's anything on the subframe, that would be from me. But looking over here, absolutely nothing. I don't really see any rust. AC compressor looks good. Let's take it back here. You can see the motor mount again. Motor mount looks great. All right, so let's take it to the transmission here. So if we're looking at the pan, dry as a bone, no leaks, no drain plug leak, no overflow leak. Let's look back here. We're up on the side. There is absolutely nothing. Dry as a bone. This axle boot and axle look good as well. That looks to be fully intact. There we go. No leaks. Perfect. Everything is extremely dry. Now, if we're looking at the exhaust, it's a bit rusty. And this is probably the only fault I can really claim is under here. Is our braided steel here on our flex pipe is, I don't know if you can see that, I might be blocking it, but right here, she's starting to come unbraided. So there you go, you can kind of see it there. But yeah, that is really the only fault underneath of here. I mean, everything else is extremely dry. There really isn't any crazy amount of rust or anything that's, you know, looking plagued. So overall, guys, I mean, this looks extremely well. So you can see that's the other control arm I replaced. That's the only two things under here that have been replaced that aren't factory. So here's our underneath view, guys. Let's go ahead and take it to the engine bay. So I have this apart just for evaluation purposes, looking it over and cleaning it up. So this will help make it a lot easier to see what we got going on, make it easier to see stuff. Obviously, it's all covered up with all the factory plastics with the intake and the cover and everything. So let's go ahead and dive into this thing, guys. Start up here with the valve cover. She looks amazing. No leaking. anywhere. I'll try to do it with light and without light, because sometimes, like I said, this light is less helpful than helpful. But and something else I want to know here with this exhaust manifold, I mean, even this bolt is still not completely rusted. This one's pretty rusted, but it's still got a little bit of silver left to it. But these, you know, these are in great shape, you know what I mean? But everything here is original. Even the battery, it's not in here right now, but the battery is original 2014 Nissan battery. So let's take a look here at the trans. Dry as a bone. Hose is in great shape, full. We still got original Nissan fluid flowing through this thing. You can see the blue antifreeze there. Motor mount completely intact. Rubber looks great. I mean, everything here, guys, just in excellent condition. Nothing looks deteriorating. Even a lot of our electrical tape on these wires is still holding up well. I mean, this thing is really held up well overall. Let's see, we can get down here. Absolutely no leaking. Everything is completely dry. In my opinion, this thing looks great. Everything. I mean, it looks great. Everything's holding up. There's no leaks. Very happy with how this thing is held up. Now, there is one thing here I want to note. Now, with this transmission breather hose, it's pretty clogged up, and honestly, it looks like you can see the hole now, but when I first took this off, it was completely filled with the debris. Just from me pulling it off, it kind of fell out. But I mean, obviously that's not helping with a known plagued transmission. So I would recommend maybe taking this off, looking at it, because this one here was completely clogged. So I'm gonna go ahead and address this, clean this up, get it right back on to our transmission right there. But yeah, guys, just make sure you check that. That's the only thing that I found here that I would really, you know, maybe deem as an issue. So just check that out. I'm gonna clean that up. But other than that, guys, you know, give you some light here. I think this thing looks great. And I'm gonna give you some shots with it all back together, but definitely think it would be way easier for an evaluation and, you know, looking it over with a little review here with everything off, everything exposed, so we can actually see what's going on, and everything isn't hidden with plastic covers, of course. So here we go, guys. Alright, so here she is, all back together. Gave her a little detail and wipe down here. I think she looks pretty good. See, got the OE battery still. And overall, this thing looks like it's got 40,000 miles, in my opinion. Definitely doesn't look like 140. Overall, seriously impressed with how everything's holding up, how everything looks. And I can only hope that everybody else has the same experience with this car as we did. And with this one, I gotta say, gotta hand it to Nissan. I've had nothing but good experiences with this car. Minimal issues, barely any maintenance. I mean, this thing has been great. So all right, so here she is in all of her glory. Not too shabby body wise. It's actually in pretty good condition. Now I'm going to start going over things that this car's been through, and, you know, all the maintenance and all that stuff it's had. Now, this car was in an accident. Unfortunately, my girlfriend was hit in a parking lot, and it had the hood, the bumper, the fender, and blended into the rest of the car. Now, the shop that did it did a pretty terrible job. If you look down here, you can see the clear is peeling off of the bumper, which is no fault to the car, but it's there. I'm planning on getting it resprayed. Everything is OEM. This is actually an OEM replacement bumper. They did go with a OEM replacement Nissan light, so the stuff is OEM, but they just didn't do good paint work, so that's really no fault of the car. But I'm going to go ahead and get that bumper resprayed in the future. Really, the only ding on this thing is right here. All right, I'm actually going to get that addressed as well. That's from some loser in his truck in the parking lot. But this wheel has been replaced. It actually got bent and it was pretty damaged from, you know, just a terrible New Jersey pothole. So that is a new wheel. That's not the original wheel. The other 3 wheels are the same. The brakes and the rotors have been done on this car a few times. I mean, that's just regular maintenance. That kind of comes with the territory. Like I said, it's got 140 plus on it. So obviously that's something that would need to be periodically done. It does have rear hubs. We did do the rear hubs on this as well. Now, the reason the rear hubs were done, it was causing premature wear on the rear pads and rotors, but you know, ever since the rear hubs have been on there, the braking on this car has been on point, and you can catch the how-to of that on the channel. It does have new control arms in the front. The bushings were going bad on that, so that's really the gist of most of the maintenance on this thing, guys, as far as things that have needed to be replaced. As you can see, my girlfriend's not too good with curbs here. No fault of the car, of course. You know what I mean? That's just her having beef with the curbs. See, they're all pretty tore up, the rest of these wheels. Yeah, her and curbs don't get along. But overall, guys, I mean, this car is in pretty darn good shape. It has had the AC recharged as well. So the AC has been recharged over the course of the past 6 years. But, you know, really, besides the control arms, brakes, rear hubs, AC recharge, periodical oil changes, the CVT fluid changes, I mean, this car has been nothing but an excellent car. It drives smooth as the day we got it. Now, as far as modifications, I mean, the car is basically stock. Nothing's really been done to it. It does have 4300K high beams and low beam HIDs that we did to it to give it that stock look with the projectors. So it does have HID kits in it, and it is tinted out as well. So the car has been tinted, but other than that, there's nothing done to the car. It's completely original. One thing that did happen to this car as well, it was broken into, unfortunately. Me and my girlfriend went to Philly for a weekend, and some great person decided to go ahead and shatter this back window. They tried to pry this up with looks like a flathead or something. I don't know what they did, but they shattered the window, stole all our stuff. I mean, we lost a ton of stuff. I guess it was our fault for having faith in tinted windows in the middle of the city. But I did replace the back window, had to get it retinted, of course. I had to replace this. I had to redo the vinyl on the actual door, you know what I mean? This was bent up. I had to do a little bit of body work, so I did have to redo all of this. But, you know, no fault to the car, you know what I mean? That was somebody who broke into it, and luckily Nissan had all these parts available. I was able to order the windshield, take the door panel off, do everything, make it look brand new. So that was, you know, a horrible situation, but looking at it, you wouldn't even know it happened. So other than that, guys, that's pretty much the gist of the exterior here, and just a few periodical things that we've done as far as maintenance. But other than that, I mean, she's stock, guys. So why don't we go ahead and get into the interior. This car is, you know, regularly washed, cleaned, so the interior is actually in really good shape. The only thing that we've had an issue with is recently, and it happened, you know, probably in the past couple months, is this seat started to rip. So my girlfriend, she sits with her body up against the steering wheel, and her legs are just smushing that, you know. So after 6 years, 140 plus, I mean, I guess that's kind of to be expected. But I might see if I can go ahead and get that, you know, repaired. But as you can see, all the rest of the leather is in great condition. Inside of this car is just extremely clean. Honestly, I don't think there's many 14 Altimas with this mileage on the road that would have an interior comparable to this. I mean, that's my opinion, but I've seen some other ones and they ain't that clean. So so in my opinion, this thing's extremely clean for what it is, and for a 6-year-old, you know, 140 plus interior, I gotta say it's done pretty well, and it looks pretty clean. Now, like I said, I do regularly clean it, maintain it, put products on it, so I mean, obviously that's going to help prolong it and keep it looking good. This car is not abused, but you know, overall it looks really good, and I'm actually really happy with how it's held up. So why don't we go ahead and start this thing up. I'll show you the mileage. Close this door. I'm gonna put the seat belt on real quick just to get all the lights on the dash off. Bam. There we go, guys. No dash lights. Almost 143K on this thing. Never had a check engine light on. Goes right into gear. I mean, this thing is great, guys. I mean, this thing has been very impressive, to be honest. Now, I am going to touch on the CVT a little bit. Now, lucky for us, there are a ton of experts and professionals that look up how-to videos on YouTube daily to give you advice and tell you how to maintain your CVT transmission. But from my experience, you know, this transmission has been good to me. Now, I know it's plagued. I know a ton of horror stories are all across the internet, all across YouTube about how the CVT is going on people, you know, very early mileage, you know, even some as low as 40K trans is gone. In my opinion, it's probably just the luck of the draw. I don't think, you know, there's really a particular thing that's causing these to go bad, at least from what I've seen, you know, and causing some of them to last as long as this did. In my opinion, it's just not the best transmission setup, and you know, some of them just obviously came bad. Now, as far as this particular car, I have done the transmission CVT fluid change twice. I even have a how-to on the channel, which you can check out. I did the transmission cooler flush along with the CVT fluid replacement. I do think maintenance or lack of maintenance could obviously affect the overall, you know, longevity of this transmission and, you know, how well it holds up. But in my opinion, it really just comes down to luck of the draw. You know what I mean? We've had a great experience with this transmission. It doesn't slip, it doesn't feel hesitant, it shifts when it needs to. Even when you stomp on it, I mean, it'll go and it'll shift. So even at 140K, this car still feels like it did when it was new as far as the transmission's concerned. So my experience with the CVT in this particular car has been good, but I know a lot of other people don't feel the same, and you know, I wouldn't either if I had a transmission that went, you know, at 40K. But overall, I think this is a really well designed car. I like pretty much, I think all the Altimas since the 3rd gen have been good cars. They just put a huge fail point with a CVT in there, and you know, it's always a chance that, you know, that it could go bad. But this car actually held up really well. So that's just my experience, but you know, from what I've seen and, you know, just doing my best to keep on top of everything, this car has held up well, no issues, and I have nothing but good things to say about it, to be honest. I'm extremely impressed that this car is almost at 150K and has never ever had any check engine or warning light come on. So I mean, I don't know how you can argue with that, but you know, that's my experience. I think this car is, you know, pretty reliable, pretty good. As long as that CVT stays intact, which obviously we know it's not a guarantee, but you know, I have seen other 5th gen Altimas go to pretty high mileage. I even worked on one recently that had more mileage than this, and there was never an issue with the CVT. So it's like I said, it's the luck of the draw. You know what I mean? If you have one that, you know, the CVT has been maintained and it hasn't given you problems up to this point, I mean, in my opinion, that's a win. So I'm taking this car as a win. I think it's done pretty good by us, and I felt as though a review as far as how everything is held up on this thing was definitely in order. So I hope this gives you a little bit of insight onto these cars, if you ever thought about getting one or if you own one, and maybe it'll shed some light on, you know, thoughts of you potentially getting this or not. So until next time, guys, stay tuned. We're gonna have more builds, more how-tos, more reviews, getting anything automotive related. So until next time, guys.